Well, thanks for making time for this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Guess to start with, tell us what you're up to. I know you've got this Belmont tour coming up kind of soon. What else do you have going on?
Yeah, so got that tour coming up in what, 6 days, and then we have album rollout. So we dropped the first single like what, a week ago or something, the song Fricked Over, and then we got the second single coming out while I'm on tour. And then we're doing like pretty much a single every month, like a month from Fricked Over on that date next month. Like so for 5 months, we're gonna have single, 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 and then full album on the fifth month. And then a bunch of videos, a bunch of cool working on, like we got like a whole warehouse full of new clothes we've been working on. Um, getting good features, some working on some cool beats for friends, all that kind of stuff. Lots of fun activities.
Staying busy. Well, I
Yeah.
have a lot of questions, but I actually don't know that much about you. I've been listening to music for years, but I don't know that much about you as a human. Um, tell us a little bit about like your origin story. Are you like a metalcore kid like Charlie, or
Yeah.
what's your kind of your background?
Yep, you got me. Exactly that. Like metalcore. It was like background of, got a guitar like fifth grade. Dude in the neighborhood was like, I'll teach you, and then pulled up there and he was trying to teach me to read sheet music of the Beatles. That wasn't very lit. And I did like,
Like, where are the breakdowns?
yeah, I was like, I don't know how to read tabs. Like, can't we just read tabs? And he's like, no. And then went in band like in school, and then played like the upright bass and electric bass, learned bass clef, and then joined a bunch of different metal bands, got kicked out of a bunch of metal bands because they wanted to play Raining Blood, and I didn't really want to play Raining Blood. And then, yeah, got into like the drum and bass scene. Interesting enough, there was like a drum and bass scene in the Appalachians in North Carolina, and I got into them, like all the stuff they're doing. They're like smoking like DMT and all that crazy stuff, making wub music. And I was just like, I didn't hear that stuff before. So it was exciting. And then I got like a friend gave me a ticket to a Bass Nectar show. I didn't know who Bass Nectar was. And then I went and I was just like, whoa, this is like crazy. I didn't know music had this low of a bass. Like, never heard that. Cause when you go to metal shows, you don't hear like loud subs. And
Right.
like, remember when they started using like the stomp pedals to like hit the 808 MIDI
Hmm.
notes live, and like that blew everyone away.
Yeah.
So seeing Bass Nectar with like all those hundreds of speakers or whatever was like unreal. So yeah, that got me like into the wanting to make like sub heavy music. And then my friend gave me Ableton, and that was like, I think I was like 22 at that time at least. So I started really late with production and whatnot, and then kind of just started going from there.
Got it. Well, there's a lot of questions that I want to ask about there, but um, the production thing is one kind of thing that I was interested in. You seem I've talked to a lot of people kind of in your scene, and you seem to be the most like technical as far as production goes. You seem to kind of really, nerd out about that kind of side of things. A lot of people just, and there's nothing wrong with this, but a lot of people just like download a beat from YouTube or something, or, some sample packs or something, which is totally cool. But you
Yeah.
geek out, I watched your Instagram video about your vocal chain and stuff. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah. So it was like the first thing that I did with all this was, learning how to make like sub music and like drum and bass type stuff. Wasn't very good at it, but it was like fun for me. And then so I got into the production for other artists that were like rappers and mostly rap world. And it was like 2013, 2014, like making really bad beats for those guys. And I just thought that was super fun. So I was like getting really into just like learning how to do it. And then it hit a point where just it, I was just felt like there was like this one specific moment where I had this beat that I thought was amazing. Like I loved it. And I gave it to someone to rap on or whatever, and got it back. And I was just like, I think I could do better. Like I feel like I could try on this. And so I did. And it wasn't very good, but it was like it was different. It was like cool to me to like be able to like try to like put vocals on something instead of just produce for somebody. Um, so that was it was like, Black Cray and like Goth Money.
Mhm.
So I was like doing the very drony vocals. It might still be on YouTube somewhere, it might be scrubbed from the internet. I don't know. But yeah, that was when the vocals started getting put into it. And then like I always like thought DJ Khaled was cool. I know he's like a meme, but like I wanted to be like DJ Khaled of the underground, like just make hard beats for everyone. I wanted to make like everyone's biggest song, this and that. And now kind of like don't really care for that as much because that's like a whole different world. Like producing and trying to like have a career is just producing is like,
But you do still produce for a lot of people, right?
yeah, definitely. But I don't put like nearly as much time into producing for other people as I do for myself anymore because it's just like you get a lot more out of music if you kind of stick to using your time management for things
Right.
that are for yourself rather than others. And that's just kind of like is what it is.
Right.
So
Yeah. You can't serve two masters really,
yeah, and then you're mixing and mastering everybody else's music, and then you don't want to like charge the homies, and then
but you have
some
to.
yeah, like it's the whole thing. I think a lot of producers and people, especially the people that produce and make their own music too, like they kind of like know what I'm saying between the lines with that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Um, but it seems like, producing for so many other people probably helped you grow a lot as a musician.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I'm very grateful for everybody that I was able to work with in the past. It was all good experiences, good learning experiences. I learned so much from just doing that in general. And, especially like working with other artists that also produce like Fatsy. Like he taught me like literally him, Fatsy, Polearm, and Anxiety Attacks like taught me everything I know when it comes to like audio engineering.
Yeah. Cause that's really that's the side of thing a lot of people don't understand. It's one thing to make a beat, in Ableton or, FL or whatever. But recording shit is a whole other skill set.
Yeah. And then after recording it, like having it and mixing it down
Yeah.
and then mastering it and then like making sure it actually bangs live is like a whole different skill set too.
Right. Right. Yeah. And you seem pretty good at that. I didn't realize that Charlie was as into that stuff.
Yeah, he was really like holding it down like for a long time like like for the past 4 or 5 years we've been friends. Like he's taught me literally everything. I'll go to him with tracks and be like, how do I do this? Like, and when he was mixing and mastering, I would just sit next to him and be like, how are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And
Oh,
then I would
okay.
do that for like with Fat Scene. I would do that with like Anxiety Attacks and Pull Arm, and they would just like really put me on game. And then so I just like took little bits of everything I
Okay.
learned from them, and then that's like how I learned to do it for my own music.
Got it. So how long have you been doing this as like your full-time paying the bills thing?
Probably so. Uh, like full time. The last time I worked like something else was like I was a vet tech in Hollywood in like 2018, and it was just because like I was like, man, like I don't know. I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I like applied to a bunch of places and this one guy like let me come work there. But it got like we had like a couple days that were just super dark, depressing. So I like stopped. And it wasn't necessarily like I had to work there to like pay the bills. I just thought it was something I wanted to do on top. But
Right.
I don't think that anymore. But the last like I was doing like Craigslist jobs like 2016, 2017, and then like 2018 it started to like do a little bit better.
Got it. So you've been doing it for a while. My cousin, by the way, she like passed the exam to be like a vet and everything. And then she bailed because she realized she was going to have to euthanize animals. And she was like, I can't fucking do it. So she
Yep.
quit.
Yep. And the freezer in the back, I'm sure she
Yeah.
knows about that.
Yeah. So it's
Rough.
tough because, she just loves animals.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's the dark stuff too. But yeah. So you've been doing this for a while, and I guess you have like a manager and stuff now, but I'm sure you didn't at the beginning. And it seems like you're still super hands-on with everything in terms of like the visuals and merch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And I
Yes.
feel like this is the model. This is part of what I find so inspiring about what you and Fatsy and Shinigami and just a lot of the people in your scene do is like you guys are all so entrepreneurial and you're so hands-on with everything and everything that comes out feels like it is one part of the same like creative vision. Like your fingerprints are on everything.
Definitely. Yeah, it's like it's super important to like us, like pretty much everyone you just mentioned, for it to be like that. Because it very quickly can get away from you if you aren't specific about what you want, especially if you start getting involved with, management or labels, and they'll try to put you in with whoever and just expect like it to be good. But like deep down, like I feel like a lot of musicians, like you started making music because you like knew what you wanted to make. You got excited at certain sounds, and like certain songs would just make you feel like euphoric, and holding on to that like realization that what's best and not someone else just because they might have more credentials or done something bigger than you've ever done. That doesn't mean that linking up with them, you're going to make something better than you can make by yourself. So I
Right.
think like all of us kind of know that, and we've experienced that in different ways.
With the album art and merch and stuff, they'll put you with their photographer or designer because, I mean, that's who they know or whatever. That doesn't mean it's right for you. That person might be great, but they might not be great for you.
Yeah, especially like the vision. Like it's really simple of like just do you have a congruent vision? And most of the time, the people that you have a congruent vision with, you've already kind of established with. And sometimes you get really lucky and like you find someone that's just like it just clicks and it works. And like I got really lucky working with this newer producer like this year and last year. That's just like we just like click, and it's like 2-3 hours, whole new song done, and it's like fire. But those are like very rare moments. So you kind of like hold on to them when they happen.
And now you do have, a manager, you have some people to work with and stuff, but you're able to, I mean, tell me if this is right, but like you're able to, I don't know, I don't want to say this in a shitty way, but it's like, I think for a lot of people, it's almost like I talk to them and it's like, it feels like they work for the manager, not the other. They're like, oh yeah, well, my manager won't let me. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Your manager, you pay him.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to direct the manager, that like it's their job to execute what lay out your vision. And the fact that you did it yourself and were so hands-on with everything means that you're going to be able to communicate your vision to a team in a way that someone might not be able to if they'd never done it themselves.
Yeah, and that's a learning experience too. The managers I work with now are amazing, and they're the third managers I've worked with. I've had two others that just didn't work out. We didn't have the same vision. And when it's just like having that, like just how would you get euphoric with the music? Like if you don't feel that synergy with a manager or with a label or like anybody in general in the world, but especially like in your career and your music career, it's super important not to like delay it and like just be like, okay, this doesn't feel right, like exit out, like that's not it. And like the no shade to anybody I've worked with in the past, but like the managers that I worked with before, like before my current managers, I told them like straight up, like this is what I want like a manager that'll do this and this and this for me. Like if that's you, we can work together, that's great. And they told me you will never find that. And so I said, okay, like we went our separate ways. Took like a year and a half, 2 years, but then I found exactly that. And like they're incredible.
Yeah. And you really got to trust your gut. Like you said, if, I mean, almost anything in life, if it doesn't feel right, it's not.
Yeah. It's super simple. And it's like your heart might complicate it or your mind might, either one you think it might be, but it's like that gut feeling. You just have to trust it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, yeah, I'm trying to think of the right way to ask it because I don't want it to sound like a weird question.
Oh, you're good.
um,
Don't even worry.
but you have a lot of emotion in your music and you do talk about some of this stuff, but like a lot of people in your genre give off kind of a dysfunctional fuck up kind of vibe where you don't, you talk about, mental health and drugs and shit in your music, but you don't have that kind of train wreck vibe like some of them do. Um, how much of that is a part of your music? Is that you're also a little bit older than a lot of people? Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So it's like really, I feel like the 93 project, like you kind of watched me go through it, right? Like a lot of people probably listening to this, like you might have listened to music when I was talking about doing drugs and like very transparently down bad. And now it's not like that anymore. And it's kind of like learning and growing and getting away from negativity and things that drag you down. Um, and I think that's like the whole point of this new album I'm working on. Like the lyrics are very conscious about not harking on negativity, being
Mm-hmm.
consciously aware of, maybe like the dark stuff that might have got you to this point, but now it's like better. It's like it's a brighter, more forward thinking, productive, conscious experience of, going through life. And yeah, it's like everybody goes through a lot of difficult things. Like we've all had our own experiences with pain and suffering, and it doesn't have to like stay like that. And that's kind of like the point of all the new music I'm making, because there was a moment when it was like I didn't try to like get here to this. Like I wasn't like I can't wait to like be popular. I can't wait for everyone to listen to my music. It was literally just like a therapy. It was like a therapeutic release and just explosion of energy, whatever, to like get it out there. And so I think that's like my early fans that caught on to that. They were going through the similar things that I was. And now it's really just completely different. And it's like that growth and like the character storyline arc has completely changed. And that's probably why I don't seem like as much of a train wreck anymore.
Right. Well, I've seen that from a lot of people, and it's actually awesome to see because I'm older than all of you guys, and I've been through all that shit too. And it was troubling seeing so many people. I mean, a lot of the people doing this stuff. I mean, I'll call it emo rap. I think that's kind of a dumb term, but whatever. I'll say that a lot of people doing that kind of music were so young, and I would see like these like 18, 19-year-old kids who are obviously really talented and so creative, just like going through the shit, say whatever, 5, 6, 7 years ago when it's kind of like starting. And it was like really troubling to me because I know where that leads and unfortunately did lead for a lot of people. But
Yeah.
now there's people, like you or Lotus or whoever who have made it out the other side, or so it seems, hopefully. And that makes me really happy to see.
Yeah, it's really great to see everyone that has managed to make it to the other side, and it's very unfortunate for those that didn't, because it really is like a roll of the dice, everyone that was going through that back then. And I will say like times have severely changed, especially with like culture of the music, like the emo rap culture, in 2012, 2013, people were doing things that were unhealthy,
Yeah.
but I don't think that there was really like there wasn't too much of like guidance from like the older generation to be like, yo, like this is why that's not cool. It was kind of just like you're stupid. Like if you got anybody that was telling you like why it was bad, you kind of get like a knee-jerk reaction because it didn't hit as close to home and have such a cultural impact as it did now. Like we've seen where that's led for people, and it's
Right.
super unfortunate. And it's also like, there was lots of drugs going on, and it was also culturally cool at that time. Like it still is in hip hop, for people to talk about doing perks or whatever, this, that. And in 2010, fentanyl was not getting put in every single
Yep.
thing on the street. Nowadays it is. And it's like we see where that's led, and it's like it's crazy just like how much has changed. And it's unfortunate like how bad, you know, like it sucks like how it was cool to suffer together for a time there. Like in the 2015, it seemed like 2016 is like everyone was like going through it, but we were going through it together. So it was like
Hmm.
a kind of like a mutual understanding. And now that's 2022, it's like that was not it. We mutually understand that that was bad. And like the kids growing up now, like they know that shit's not cool.
Right. I never took it the way that a lot of people did. A lot of people saw that stuff and were like, oh, they're glorifying it. I never took it that way because I can see it for what it is, which is like really young kids dealing with mental health issues. And, I mean, I did the same shit. I mean, I talked about it earlier on the stream. Like, I mean, I was like, wanted to kill myself every 10 minutes. That's when I was like drinking and doing drugs all the time because it's like,
Mhm.
because that's something that people do. So I never took it as people glorifying it. I just took it as people like struggling. So I maybe had a little bit of a different perspective on it, but it's just, it just worries me to see. And I don't know, I'm happy to see that the culture has changed. um do you still like, how do you feel playing or listening to that older music now?
I don't. I
Yeah.
can't. Like I can't stand to listen to it. It's dark, and maybe glorification is a bad term. Maybe just normalization, and that might be a better word for it.
Right.
But none. I don't listen to anything that I used to listen to, uh, and it's like it's kind of like how smells will bring you back to like memories. It's the same thing
Hmm.
for audio. Like it'll bring you back to like feelings that you might not want to feel anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some like yeah, there's some songs I can't listen to. They're great songs. I love them. They're fantastic, but I can't listen to them because it takes me back to a place that just is too painful. And I can only imagine if I wrote the song, there would
Hmm.
even be, a stronger connection.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. What do you hear from like people that have been around listening to your stuff for a long time as far as that goes? Like, I mean, are there people that, tell you like, oh, I liked your old stuff better? Do you get any of that, or do you feel like people have grown with you?
Yeah, I definitely get that a little bit. And I also get the other side of it that like have grown with me. I literally got a DM the other day that was like, dude, I stopped listening to you in 2018, 2019, whatever. And like listening to the old stuff would bring me back to like those dark times. But I just listened to your new music, like the Safubi Deluxe and whatnot. And I really like resonate with how much growth is there. And like I personally can relate to that now. And I think that's like the coolest thing right there is just to be able to connect and both be in a better place and like understand that.
Yeah, when I listened to your music, like Sofubi to me, it was like a big like turning point. When I listened to that stuff, to me, it's just like creativity is the energy that I pick up on there. Like that album, especially, is like every song is almost like a different genre. I don't even know how to say the name of the song, like 100 or whatever. That's
Yeah.
my favorite one because it's just so fucking weird.
Yeah, that's so funny. It was like that was the whole point of the album too, because I was in a moment of my life where I didn't know what to do because I like I was saying earlier, like music was a release, and now I was like, okay, like I feel good now. Like, what am I gonna make music about? Like, what am I gonna
Right.
do? So the whole Safubi thing was literally like pretty consciously trying to make a song in every different genre and every different type of feeling just to like try it out and see how it felt.
I think the drum and bass kind of influence is interesting because there aren't that many people these days. I mean, I was into that stuff when it was new, like in the 90s. And there aren't that many younger people really that care about it now. So that's like really interesting to hear that kind of influence on that album.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff is it was like very influential to me. I just never like heard it. Like the first time I heard 808s was skating at a skating rink called Jelly Beans in North Carolina. So I heard they had a big subwoofer and they would play like the Crunk 2000 era, like
Uh-huh.
Little John, Yin Yang Twins, and that to me was the greatest. And then kind of like I didn't even have a subwoofer, so then the next time I heard it was like that drum and bass dubsteppy type stuff, and like I just loved it.
I remember the first time I heard drum and bass. I don't remember what it was, but some like kind of, 90s like amen break kind of stuff. And I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like I'd already been listening to death metal for years. So I was listening to like extreme stuff, but the drum and bass stuff was just such a wild, fresh sound.
Yeah, there was a YouTube channel called like UHF dubstep or UKF dubstep, and I would run it into the ground.
Yeah, it's cool. And like the bass music scene in general, like uh it's an interesting kind of community. Like you mentioned Bass Nectar. It's an interesting community because there's so much crossover with like, metal and hardcore and stuff. Like, did you ever hear Bass Nectar's death metal band?
No, what's it called?
Uh Pale Existence.
No, I don't think I have.
They're good. He was like in high school. It's from like 94, 95. It's really
I'll,
good.
I'll have to check that out after this.
Yeah, and like Pendulum and Excision, and like there's so many of the people, so many of the artists. Like I would say almost the majority of the artists in that scene, at least from like my generation and stuff, were almost all like metal guys first. And it kind of makes sense, you know?
Yeah, it's that extreme, that high energy, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's like people like Sullivan King and Keizo and stuff now doing I don't know what they would call it, like, I call it headbanger dubstep.
Yeah,
And
like
it's interesting
art
to see that.
style.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that scene in the same way as like people think that emo rap is rap, and it's not. It has nothing to do with rap. Like it's not part of rap culture. You know,
Yeah,
it has nothing. There's zero, like rap fans don't give a fuck about, you know, any of this stuff. And I almost feel like with bass music, it's almost more of a part of metal culture than it is like electronic music culture in a lot of ways.
yeah, because there's like a stark difference between like Aphex Twins or Postal Service electronic music and the hardcore, hard hitting bass music. That's
Yeah.
like that stuff like crosses over a lot more to like the metal scene for sure.
Yeah. That stuff is scary to Postal Service fans.
Yeah, yeah, I was a huge Postal Service fan.
Yeah, they're great, but it's very, just very different energy. So
Yeah,
I think to me, what I respond to, like I'm genre agnostic. I don't care what genre something is. I just respond to the energy.
yeah, same.
And I think it's cool that, now compared to when I was, when I was in high school or whatever, you could only like one genre of music. You certainly couldn't make more than one genre of music, which is so funny. And now I feel like, especially with like, the kids that are teenagers now, they don't give a fuck about genres, and they don't expect artists to have a genre either. Like you can put out a metalcore album next month and I think people would love it.
Yeah, and especially when you're like a kid or like in middle school, high school, your genre of music that you're a fan of is also like parlayed to your identity. So
Right.
people love to, as humans, we love to put definitions to things and put things into boxes. So like I get it, but once you get, I feel like, dude, especially like you were saying, like now the kids nowadays, like they grew up with so much more access to music than we did. Like you probably were there with me, like in Barnes and Noble, scanning barcodes, listening to like 30-second previews of songs off
Of
albums
course.
to
Yeah.
find music, right? Now
Yeah.
you have Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, Google. We didn't have that. Like nowadays, like there's so much more exposure, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. And, back when I was in high school, you'd buy a CD and, you don't have much money. So you have to listen to that CD, like whether you like it or not, which
Yeah.
is good and bad, because there's some stuff that I didn't like at first, but I was like, well, I paid for this. I'm going to force myself to like it. And
Yeah.
then I eventually learned to appreciate it. Whereas now, if something doesn't grab you in like literally 5 seconds on TikTok, you're like, yep, next.
Yeah. And back then too is like realizing like the personal taste is like valid, and it's like, wait, not every song is actually good. Like I'm not tripping because I don't like this song.
Right.
Like I don't have to.
Right. Yeah. So how does that feel as an artist to sort of, to know that you have permission to do whatever you want?
It's great. It's really great. That's exactly why, I'm not in a band. It's like all solo music. Uh, like, if I need help on the road, or like if I need a live band, like I can make that happen, but I don't have to consider, you know, two, three, four, five people's idea of what 93 Feet of Smoke music sounds like. Like it's just what I want to do.
Right. Well, how important is touring or playing shows to you?
It's pretty important. It was super like super important to when I was starting out. Like I didn't know what I was doing, but I think it kind of like helped get my name out there and like helped locally at least just like people finding out what I was doing and like whatever influence I might have had or like cultural impact, like made like groups of friends with it and like put a bunch of shows together with other people doing it. So it was super important just for like the culture of the early 93 stuff from like the 2015 era. Very important. Nowadays, it's like, um, I see touring as kind of like a next ladder I have to climb because as a SoundCloud derivative, essentially, like I come from
Right.
SoundCloud, then I branched into Spotify, like very consciously only promoting Spotify links, trying to get up on that. And then it's like once you get into the touring world and you came from SoundCloud, like it's starting at square one again,
Hmm.
basically. It's like you have to prove yourself, like especially with the art of like inflated numbers that we see across different platforms like SoundCloud or Spotify, depending on, if you got different plugs here and there, you can look a lot bigger than you actually are. And I think that's a thing that kind of happens is we play a lot of karaoke music as SoundCloud music,
Right.
SoundCloud rappers, whatever you want to call it. So for touring, you kind of have to like prove yourself again. Like you had to prove yourself to get up on Spotify. Like you had to at first prove yourself to get up on SoundCloud.
Yeah, and I think the people who come from the, rock and metal world that played in bands have a big advantage there because there's some of these SoundCloud rapper people that I have seen, and I don't want to name names, but some of them are like pretty successful, very respected in that world. And I saw them live and they were like shockingly bad. And I realized like, oh, this guy has never played a show before.
Were you saying for SoundCloud people or bands? Like,
SoundCloud people
oh
that
yeah, for
I
sure.
was like, oh, you've never I see you've never played a show before. That's why you suck at it.
Yeah, for sure.
And
But you can
and
look
do
huge.
this person does very well, super respected OG in the SoundCloud rap world, but didn't play in bands, and you can tell.
Yep. You always can tell.
Yeah. And the other thing that's interesting, I saw this with the MySpace bands, 15 years ago or whatever. They would have millions and millions of plays and fans and blah, 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 but they would draw 50 people. And I was like, what? This is like, I don't understand. And then I realized, oh, it's because their fans are all 14
Hmm.
and they can't go to a show in the city on a Wednesday night because their
Yeah.
fans are all in ninth grade and they live in the suburbs,
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with the MySpace music era.
which isn't a bad thing. I'm not putting them down. It was just interesting. That's the first time where, someone could be really popular and successful in this one arena online, but that doesn't translate into, playing shows. Cause I was used to like, oh, well, if you sell a lot of records, that means you're going to draw at shows too. And that's the first time that started to kind of not be true anymore.
Yeah. So if you're, and I mean this with like love, but like as someone, if you're pulling up crazy numbers on different online platforms, you have to be very cautious at the same time to accept different shows, play different shows because
Right.
you know that might affect your optics. You can't pull up, have 1 million monthly listeners and sell 10 tickets. But
Right.
it's a very common thing, like with the different playlists and just the way that these algorithms work, that it's very real. Like it happens.
I saw probably one of the first like five Lil Nas X shows. He was about to play, it was right after Old Town Road came out, and he was gonna play like the VMAs or something like 2 weeks later. And I saw him play the Amazon employee picnic. And
Whoa.
it was at like a stadium. Um, but it was at like 2 p.m. on like a Tuesday, and it was so rough because this is all a bunch of like nerdy engineers that have no idea who he is. And it was like the middle of the day, and I could tell like he had this like older DJ hype man kind of guy that was kind of almost like telling him what to do, like in a way is like, all right, show him what time it is, and sort of like point to that part of the stage. And but I respect him for that because like he could tell that he's like, I need to get my reps in, because I'm about to go play the VMAs or whatever it was in 2 weeks. I'm going to go out there and eat shit playing at 2 p.m. to these Amazon employees, but I got to get out there on a big stage and get used to this because that's what I'm going to be doing from now on. So I respect that.
Yeah, it can be very humbling and it's very important.
I mean, that is a tough show in the middle of the fucking day to an audience that doesn't know who you are. That's tough.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will let you get on with your night, but anything, any parting words of wisdom or stuff you want to promote or anything else before I let you go?
Good Grief, new album coming out probably June, July. We're gonna have another single come out middle of March, and yeah, singles every month. Come through to the Belmont tour. It's gonna be great. Full band 93 for the first time ever. And make sure you like and subscribe. Follow Twitch for Punk Rock NBA. Tap into all his content.
All right. I appreciate the plug. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate this, and I will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
See ya.